Judge!
Hello and welcome to the Cinema Judge. To all my regulars and loyal listeners, thanks so much for returning. Now, if you're new to the show, let me briefly tell you what we do here at the Cinema Judge. The studios, they send us interviews, scenes, on-the-set footage, and interviews from the red carpet. What we do, we make one giant infomercial to make evidence to give to you. That's what we do. We're not here to yell at people, complain about Hollywood, anything like that. I love movies and like to share movies with you and give you all the facts. Because we all have walked different paths. Who am I to tell you worst movie ever made, best movie ever made, whatever. There's just no way people can agree. So I do this. I collect the evidence, being the judge, and I give it to you, the jury, and you make up your own mind. Because any movie is somebody's favorite movie. Consider this a movie oasis. A place where you can just get away from the world for a while. Because we know how noisy it is. But I want a place you can just have a little sanctuary and just hear about a movie. And that's it. You listen to interviews from the creators, the director, the writer, the actors. So that's what we do here at the Cinema Judge. Because let's be honest, we all want to spend our hard-earned money wisely. Because we all want the same thing, an enjoyable movie experience. Now, approaching the bench today, we have the movie Till. Now, this is a very powerful, true story. In 1955, after Emmett Till was murdered in a brutal lynching, his mother vows to expose the racism behind the attack while working to have those involved brought to justice. So here's a trailer for Till.
I got a letter today from Auntie Lizzie. She said Bo's been working the fields. I can't imagine. Oh, he just doesn't understand how different things are in Mississippi. Are you listening?
Yes.
Be small down there.
Like this?
Emmett never thought anything would happen to him.
Meet the mummy, Simmy!
Ow!
He just wanted to go on vacation and have fun with his cousins. But if my son could just get his feet back onto the Chicago soil, he'd be one happy kid. I don't know why I said that.
I want to talk to you about that boy.
They've come for you.
It's hard to describe what a mother knows. The first thing I noticed when I became a mother was that my hands were busy. All the time. My hand knew him with my eyes closed. Just like I'd know his laughter in a crowded room. It's the same thing when you know all of someone. This was my boy, Emmett Till.
The body of Emmett Lewis Till has been found dead.
Can I at least just fix him up a bit?
No, they have to see it for themselves.
You tell me, Mamie, how is risking your life gonna help him?
Those pictures of your son change people's lives.
I can't look, baby. We have to. The lynching of my son has shown me that what happens to any of us, anywhere in the world, had better be the business of us all.
Now, coming up first, we have a featurette. Now, in this featurette, this is what this is. The studios, they send us pre-packaged little featurette with interviews, clips, and everything like that kind of into one short little mini commercial. And you're going to hear from Whoopi Goldberg, the director, the writers, and other actors. And they're just be talking more about this film. But you'll be hearing other stuff in the background. That's because they're interslicing clips from the movie and things of that nature. And at the end of the show, I'll tell you where you can go if you want to watch the TV version of this. So when these things play, you can see what's happening in the background. But this is what this featurette's about. It's just basically everybody telling us what this movie's about. It's a true story, and just a little bit more background.
They have a different set of rules down there. You have to be extra careful.
No.
Oh, be small.
Like this?
The first time I heard about the Emmett Till event, I was in elementary school.
You look like a movie star.
What? It's one of those stories that if you're black, you've heard about it.
I want to talk to you about that boy.
Most of us would not know who Emmett Till was if it weren't for Mamie.
The whole world has to see what happened to my son.
Mamie was very aware and intentional about the power of the image to really bring awareness that would result in a level of change and activism and to galvanize people into doing something.
You're not just my boy anymore.
Orion exists to give a platform to the myriad of filmmakers like Chinonye that have something to contribute to the cinematic canon of American film. And I'm really, really committed to making movies, not just by us, but for us.
We put Emmett's story in its proper context and history to understand how his story sparked the American Civil Rights Movement.
We get to see how Mamie fights for justice. If something is happening to one of us, it is happening to all of us, and we witness her come into a particular kind of power and to be the progenitor of the civil rights movement.
Those pictures of your son changed people's lives.
Mamie turned tragedy into purpose, which is why we sit here today.
This story needs to be told in a way that is humanizing, empowering, and that is necessary. There will be no physical violence against black people on screen because I'm not interested in relishing in that kind of physical trauma. We're gonna begin and end in a place of joy.
You just beeped when you should have bopped.
Mamie was a catalyst for change. She affected millions of lives for the better. Mamie Till Mobley is a hero.
The lynching of my son has shown me that what happens to any of us, anywhere in the world, had better be the business of us all.
Like I said, this is a very powerful movie. In the cast, the acting, top notch. You really can't ask for much more. Now, first, we're going to hear from the co-writer and director of this film. And this is an incredible interview. She really talks about when she went to the people, the head of the company, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And they're like, yeah, of course. That's why we asked you. And I just love hearing that little behind the scenes stuff about, okay, this is what I want to do with this movie. Oh man. And they want to do it too. It just little things like that just makes these kind of interviews so fun and just inspiring, really, to hear these people so passionate about making a movie. But I really want you to listen to one part of this interview near the end. She wanted to make sure they don't depict any physical violence. Because before this movie came out, there were some critics out there, or people were suggesting that it was like black trauma. And I can't vouch for this either way. I'm not a person of color. I'm just saying what some people were saying. But this movie purposely avoids any exploitation, any gratuitous violence. That's not what this movie's about. It's about the mother and her dealing with the trauma and trying to get to the bottom of it all. So they do not show the traumatic, ugly event that happened. You don't need that because you could see it in their eyes and everything else that happens around them. So really pay attention to this interview because you might go back and try to read some other people complaining about this being black trauma, or what, there's a word for it and it escapes me off the top of my head. She explicitly says, I'm not going to show stuff like that. Check it out.
I was only interested in making this film if it was my vision. So I go to the meeting with the producers in New York, and one of the first things I say is, I need to rewrite the script from page 1. Okay. It's like, oh, okay. The protagonist is Mamie. It's all about Mamie, her emotional journey. I'm not interested in going into these tributaries. Okay, that's really what we want. That's why we reached out to you. I said, okay. There will be no physical violence against Black people on screen in my version of this film because I'm not interested in relishing in that kind of physical trauma. Yeah. Absolutely, yes. It's like, damn. And so, okay, we're gonna begin and end in a place of joy. We need to see some joy in, yes, that's what we want. That's why we want you.
Like I said, great interview. You just want to just stand up and say, yeah, you go. You just love that passion. Now, next, we're going to hear from the president of Orion Pictures. And she's going to be talking about how inspiring the real-life character, the mother, was, and just how much she just made strides and how great she was. Here she is.
The film that Chinonye has crafted is actually a celebration of Mamie Till. It's a celebration of her tireless work. It's a celebration of her resilience. It's a celebration of her power. And it is a centering of a Black woman who is so crucial to American history, who's so important to our history, and frankly, who's emblematic of thousands, if not more, Black women who have not been recognized in this way. So I think what's important about seeing the movie is really honoring this incredible human being who, I think so much of us can relate to and how much she loved her son.
Now, the actress that portrays the mother is Danielle Deadwyler. And in this next interview, she talks a little bit more about the story about her son was going to go out of state and visit some cousins. And that's where this whole thing starts to unravel. But she talks about that and just a little bit more about her character in the story.
Till, our film, is exploring what happened in preparation for Emmett to travel to the South to enjoy a vacation with his family, with his cousins. And after the death and lynching of him, we are witness to the bravery and the courage that Mamie Till Bradley navigates in order to find justice for her son, to find some semblance of justice for herself, and therein justice for the Black community that is experiencing this on an amplified basis. Because it wasn't just happening to, it didn't just happen to her family. It was happening in a proliferated fashion. And there are moments, and this is a moment that gets amplified because of the nature of the time.
Now, coming up next, I'm going to play a couple interviews back to back because they flow so well together, I'm not going to interrupt it. So first, we're going to hear from the young man who's playing Till, Jalyn Hall. He's going to talk about, him playing the role. And then, immediately after that, we're going to go to an interview with his woman who's playing his mother, Danielle. And she talks about this really great moment when she first met him, how charismatic he was, and just how whoa, we need this young man in our film. And then right after that, then we go back to Jalyn, talking about working with Danielle, about how professionally she is and how much she just admires her.
In this film, I play Emmett Till, and let me tell you, he is a joyful, outgoing, funny, goofy kid who just loves family and loves his mother.
Working with Jalyn the first time, it's via the audition. And Jalyn came in super charismatic. He complimented me on my smile. And I'm like, excuse me, little boy, who you talking to? But that was that spark of personality and flair that says, oh gosh, if we're talking about Emmett, we're talking about somebody who's full of vibrancy, who's full of a particular kind of freedom that other people maybe at the time didn't quite understand. Like you just go, who is this person and what spirit is working around them? And that's what he came with. And Jalyn has come with that throughout the shoot. He's just a dear heart.
Working with Danielle has also been amazing. She is one of the most dedicated actors I know. She's here in the mornings and the last one to get out. When I tell you, she takes her craft so seriously, and it is so inspiring to even watch.
This young man is so talented. And just to relay that a little bit more, you're going to hear from the director. And she's going to be talking about when she first met this young man. She played a song on her phone, and he just flowed with it. It's just a really cool story. And then after that, we're going to go right to Jalyn, and he's going to be talking about just how rewarding it is to be working on such an important film.
When he first met Danielle in person, I played the song that plays in the opening of the film, Sincerely, by the Moonglows. And I just played it on my cell phone. And he just gets up, spins Danielle around, and they just dance. And he just was so comfortable in his skin. He was so comfortable and confident in who he was, and that is what Emmett embodied. He had such a confidence about him, such a carefreeness about him, such a joy about him. And Jalyn really embodied all of that.
The most rewarding, I would say, is that just being a part of it. You know, there's so much good that will come out of this, and there's so many minds that will be opened up to the concept of the story that we're telling, and just to have my name in that conversation is a reward in its own.
Now we're going to play a clip for you next. Now in this scene, in the very beginning, you don't see it, but if you want to watch a show later on when I give you the address, you know that earlier in the interview when the director was talking about how he spun her when they were dancing? Well, at the beginning of this scene, he spins her because they're in his bedroom and she's putting on his tie. And they're just having a fun mother-son kind of discussion. And so she's tying his tie, and she really wants to convince him or reassure him by saying, when you get to Mississippi, you gotta behave, or you just gotta be extra, extra careful. And he's young. He doesn't really understand. He's been to Mississippi once, but he's just like, I get it, I know. But her being an adult is far more aware of stuff that could go south. And it's just a fun little communication that, they're sharing. Even though it's a heavy conversation, at the very end of it, there's a little cute part where she says, try to be small. And he, looks at her and he crouches down, like really down low. It was like this. And he walks away like all crunched down. It was just really showing how fun he was and what kind of energy he carried with him.
All right, now you're gonna miss your train. Bo, when you get down there...
Oh, not again, Mama. I've already been to Mississippi.
Only one time before, and you started a fight with another little boy.
He was picking on me.
You're in the right to stand up for yourself, but that's not what I'm talking about. They have a different set of rules for Negroes down there. Are you listening?
Yes.
You have to be extra careful with white people. You can't risk looking at them the wrong way.
I know.
Bo, be small down there.
Like this?
And I said it before and I will say it again. This young man, Jalyn Hall, he's going to have one great career. Now, up next, we're going to hear from him. And he's going to talk about how he feels this movie will open the eyes of his generation.
Well, my generation, I think it would definitely open their eyes, considering, to be honest, in schools nowadays, some schools don't even teach this sort of history. So for a movie to teach kids of my generation and the generations to come, I think that is the biggest honor I've ever had. This project, I don't even think it's a project. I really think it's something that will move and change the hearts of people out there.
Now, up next, we're going to hear from the legend, the incredible talent, Whoopi Goldberg. She plays the grandmother, and she talks about when she first heard about the story back in the day.
Well, I don't know the first time I heard because I'm sure I was a kid. But it's one of those stories that if you're black, you've heard about it. If you have brothers, you've heard about it. If you were sent down to see relatives down in the South, it was like, listen, when white people speak to you, don't say anything. Just yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, and keep on rolling, So I'm sure, and I saw the picture. I remember seeing that picture and not understanding what it was. And my mother said, that is the little boy.
Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from the director, and she's going to talk a little bit more about the relationship between the mother and grandmother. But then, I love the little thing at the end when she offered the job to Whoopi Goldberg. How she, it's a fun story. She's like, "Oh, I'd be honored to do it," and she's like, "Oh, okay, I'll consider you." But I just love that little moment of brevity, if you will. But then right after that, we're gonna hear from Whoopi, and she's gonna be talking about working with such a young director and how she hopes they could deliver.
Well, Alma was Mamie's mom, and Alma was someone who was the matriarch of the family. You know, Emmett and Mamie had a kind of more of a brother-sister relationship. And so after Emmett's lynching, Mamie kind of stood up in a matriarchal way, in a way that she hadn't before. And at that same time, Alma broke down, and she couldn't kind of stand in that kind of matriarchal way. Mamie had a matriarchal kind of role, and Mamie had to kind of step up for them both. And in a way that was a really interesting kind of role reversal between the two. But Alma was always somebody who was an anchor for Mamie, you know, and was kind of the disciplinarian in the house. And so it was really important for me to kind of show the complexity in the relationship really happens when that role reversal starts to happen. And Whoopi was somebody who, you know, it's Whoopi Goldberg. She's an incredible actor, and she was not attached to play Alma. Like, it was a role that I offered her, and I asked her, would she, you know, would you want to do it? And she said it would be an honor, you know, to be even considered for the role. And I was like, all right, Whoopi, I'll consider you for the role. Okay.
You know, she's a young director, and she's fresh, and she knows what she wants to see, and so hopefully we're giving it to her.
Now, can you imagine working with such a legend, such a talent? And up next, we're going to kind of hear a brief little story about that. We're going to hear from Danielle, who plays the mother, and talks about working with her.
Working with Whoopi Goldberg, Whoopi is, I've said this before, she's a bit of a trickster. She's hilarious, right? She brought levity to a set that's dealing with a deep weight and tension. Like, everybody's feeling it, right? The crew is feeling it, the cast is feeling it. It's something that is just sitting on you. But when Whoopi showed up, it got to do this a little bit. It got to float.
Now, we're going to hear next from Whoopi Goldberg. And this is a great interview. It's a few, you know, back to back, and I'm just going to let them play out. But she talks about how these people who did this are still out there. Is mind blowing. I mean, this wasn't like there's no dispute of what happened. It's not like, oh, hey, this happened. No, these people brutalized a young kid. But hopefully, maybe one day, something will happen, and at least, you know, maybe some action will be taken. So in this interview, she talks about that, and just a little bit more about the whole movie and the whole, you know, concept of all, and hopefully what it could do, you know, to help out everything. Anyway, check it out.
It's just a cautionary tale for all of us. If no one says anything, and this continues to go on the way that it does, this will never stop, because we all like to think that sanctioned racism is gone, but it's not. I've been waiting 10 and a half years. Keith Beauchamp has been waiting 28 years. He's the reason we were able to get the case reopened. Now, you know, it's not hardly finished, because there are people still alive, you know, whose reckoning a whole nation should be yelling for. You know, if you know, we got the murderer of Medgar Evers finally put behind bars, and, you know, we need to get all the murderers of Emmett Till finally put behind bars. I hope they'll be reminded that he was a kid, and two adult men decided to go in and beat up, mutilate, and murder a kid. And if we're the nation that continues to okay and say that's all right, if no one stands up and says, well, we're not gonna have this anymore, You know, if that's the country we are, it's quite sad. I like to think we're the country that says, you know what? Yeah, this took too long. This took too long.
Now, what do you guys think? Are these complete losers sitting at home going, oh, hey, I got away with this? Do you truly think in the end, your mind says, I'm going to skate, I'm a hero? Now, if you're truly this religious person, do you maybe, just maybe think, you're going to pay for this in the end, buddy? No matter how you slice this, you complete losers, you're doomed. And your time will come. Whether you think so or not, you're doomed. Okay, all right, mini soapbox over. But coming up next, we're going to play a clip for you. Now, in this clip, we have the grandmother and the mother. They're talking in the living room, and she's saying, come on, he needs to explore the world. It's going to be okay. But the mother's like, we've never been apart this long. This is just a really well-crafted scene.
What's wrong, Mamie?
We've never been apart this long.
He's just going to see his cousins. It's not a bad thing for him to know where he come from.
Well, Chicago is all he needs to know. I don't want him seeing himself the way those people are seen down there.
Those people like me?
Even you left Mississippi, Mama.
Mamie, Bo is growing up. You're gonna have to let him go. All right, I know that face. That is the face of Mama. Mind your business and go home. Where's my pocketbook?
Mm-hmm, right here.
Oh, there it is. You need to get you some rest, too. Come on, baby.
I'll call you tomorrow.
All right.
What a cast. Whoopi Goldberg. Is there anything she can't do? What I like about her is everything she does, it seems so effortless. It's just so, she embodies every character she undergoes. If you just look at her incredible career, look at what she's given us. From comedy to drama and everything in between. It's just so great that she keeps sharing and keeps doing stuff. Because, sometimes when people get tired of it, they go, I'm done with it, I don't want to do it. But when a project like this comes up and it speaks to her, it's just so great to see that they jump in and they do it. Because these kind of stories need to be told, and it needs to be told by such a great cast and crew that this movie has. Because this is just, what a great cast. Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from the president of Orion Films. And it's so great to hear her talk about the mother in real life, Emmett Till Mobley, because what she says is just incredible. And I'm just going to step aside and let her talk, because what she says is just really, really important.
Yeah, I think Emmett Till Mobley is an American superhero. I think that she changed the course of history. I think that she affected millions of lives directly and indirectly for the better. I think that she was a catalyst for change. She was a catalyst for progress. And like so many other Black women who shouldn't have to be this, she was a self-sacrificing warrior who put her feelings in some compartment somewhere away to do something that would help other children like her son, that would protect and save other children like her son, and that would let people know that they can't get away with this kind of a heinous crime. So absolutely, unequivocally, she's an American hero, but she's so much more than that. I wouldn't even want to reduce her to that. And, we should make movies about her, and we should also talk about her, in our day-to-day lives. We should continue to tell our children these stories, not just as a cautionary tale that unfortunately is still relevant of the dangers of the world, but also as an inspiration for what one human being can do. One of the things that was the most remarkable to me when I first read Chinonye's script was the first 30 pages or so that are the story of Emmett Till, the boy. And there was such humor and exuberance and joy and innocence. And I just thought, I would watch a movie about this kid. I want to know more about him. And I think that it's incredibly important that people whose lives were taken from them in this tragic way that then end up becoming catalysts for change, that they're not just reduced to that part of their life, that they're not just reduced to what happened to them. We wanted to celebrate who Emmett was. This is also a movie that's a love story of mother and son, and not that you wouldn't hope that any parent and any mother would fight for their child, but I know and believe that the depth of love and care that she had for him was a huge part of why she felt compelled to again put her feelings aside and fight for justice for him till the end of her life. So it's incredibly important that, Emmett and all of who he was, the fullness of who he was, be a part of this story too.
And what I really like about that interview is this. She's the president of that whole movie corporation. And you don't hear that a lot. Hear people like that speak out and talk about a movie that they are so passionate about. And that's what I really wanted to get across there. It's like, I'm just going to let her roll with this because she's so invested in this emotionally and everything. And it's just so wonderful to hear somebody at the very tippy top. Because sometimes we feel it's just a numbers game with the people on top. I mean, I'm not saying it ever is with people, but sometimes in our mind's eye, we start thinking, well, they're just the executives. All they care about is, ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. But when you hear her talk, it was just, she's all involved and invested. It was just really cool to hear. But now coming up next, we're going to hear from Danielle Deadwyler, who plays the mother. And she's going to talk about what she hopes people take away from this film.
The biggest thing that I hope audiences to carry with them, to seep into their beings is change, and how change is a communal effort. It's an emotional undertaking to witness and to feel any semblance of what this film endures. And even as a woman moving through the mourning that she was moving through, she had the wherewithal and the open heart and mind and spirit to be aware of who she was and who she needed to be and who she wanted to become after this. And that was a person of community.
I just love hearing these interviews. They have so much to say and so much insight. Now, coming up next, I'm going to play a few more back-to-back. The first one is we're going to hear from the writer-director and just talk about how much she enjoyed and proud she was to be part of this project. And then immediately after that controlled interview, which is in a controlled environment, we're going to go to her again from the red carpet. And then right after her, from the red carpet, we're going to talk to Danielle Deadwyler again. And she's just going to have so much more to say about this whole project. And then it's going to be writer-producer Keith Beauchamp. And he also is from the red carpet. And I'm just going to let them talk because they can say it better than I could ever possibly dream of. Here they are.
I'm really, really excited to have been given the opportunity to make a film that is rooted in the humanity of Black people, and it's artful, and it's crafted, and it's cinematic, and it's relatable and accessible, and that I believe that so many people, regardless of your race, regardless of your gender, regardless of what your background is, you are going to connect on a human and emotional level to this Black woman on screen. And that gets me so excited. And I'm really, 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 really proud of that. Well, Till is a film about Mamie Till Mobley and her journey in fighting for justice for her son, Emmett Till, after he was lynched in Mississippi. And so it really follows closely her evolution of activist consciousness that led her to be a catalyst for the modern American civil rights movement. I mean, Danielle's transcendent in this film, and she really channels Mamie, spirit, mind, body, and soul. Everybody is just so spectacular in this film, and really, from the cast and the crew, we all gave our all and really was working with the intention of honoring and honoring Mamie's legacy and centering her in her rightful place in history. I mean, it holds me accountable, you know, in a much deeper way, you know, and it's an exciting challenge, you know, to figure out how to tell this story in a way that is rooted in honesty and truth and care. I mean, there's so much. I mean, I hope that people can think about the ways that we can get outside of our own individual bubbles and effect change that will affect the next person and I also hope that people don't lose hope, and that even though the change we might want to see doesn't happen in our lifetime, there are things that we can do to help move things forward. I would say keep pushing, and that your work, it's not about everything, all the change happening in our lifetime right now, even though that would be great, but your work, even if you don't get the outcome that you want, it is part of a larger community of freedom fighters and change and advocacy. And it's a continuation of a legacy of people who've been doing this work long before us.
Chinonye Chukwu, our director, was intent on telling the story from the POV of Mamie Till, and we don't often see portrayals of this caliber. We don't often know what the experience of the Black woman in the civil rights movement is. We know Rosa Parks, and there are so many others. In fact, this is the progenitor of the civil rights movement. Everybody locates themselves in the experience of Emmett, in the loss that was incurred. And everybody locates themselves in a knowing of the strength that she had to share those images of her dear loved one, Emmett, to have the strength to persist. People don't know about the challenges that she faced as a result of his death being announced, the kinds of death threats in the mail, the terrorism that was incurred by her at the time. And so this story gets to the heart of that kind of experience and the triumph over that, and the continued triumph and the legacy of what she's doing. This is 67 years in the making, and so it's wonderful to share finally. This is just something that's been a part of my personal legacy. I'm a child of Atlanta, Georgia, the civil rights legacy of that city. I went to Cascade United Methodist Church, where Reverend Dr. Lowry was the pastor, and he was a co-collaborator with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King at the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, where I did a number of time with unsung Black women in that organization and learning amongst them. And I mean, they were all influenced heavily and deeply by the legacy of Mamie Till. And so that's what we're seeing the root today. It's hard to tell somebody what to take away. There's so many nuggets. But at the end of the day, this person who sought to just live an ordinary life was thrusted into extraordinary capacities and you know, longer than she ever could have imagined. And so you can find yourself in that too.
Well, Till is an effort that came out of 30 years. I was a close friend to Mother Mobley, Emmett Till's mother. She was my mentor and friend. And so this was something that she had tried to fight to get done when she was still with us. In fact, has taken 67 years for a film like this to be even produced. So many people have tried, but we have succeeded. And so I'm just overwhelmed about this evening that we're about to have. Like, I get emotional when I talk about Danielle, because the whole purpose of this film was to resurrect my mentor and friend. And she did that. I mean, every day she walked on set and was the walking late Mamie Till Mobley. And so to have someone to portray her in the way she is in the film is truly amazing. I know it's a lot of talk about Oscar buzz. I get so excited about it, but the reality is I just want people to see this great performance that Danielle had done, and be moved by the film and be moved by my shero, who has influenced my life tremendously. being so close to the making of the film and being so close to, of course, the case itself was quite overwhelming. You mentioned Danielle, and when I think of Danielle, it makes me emotional because, as I said, I wanted to see someone to resurrect my friend and mentor, the great woman that I knew. And she was able to do that, painstakingly. It was just every day was a new day for me, a new chapter, seeing what's next and what Danielle would do next. And so just overwhelming experience. I just don't have the right words to express this moment because it's been so hard over the years trying to keep this train moving to tell this story. I want people to take away when they see this film, I want them to understand that the civil and human rights movement still exists in this country. I also want them to truly understand the story of Emmett Till because I believe that Mother Mobley, Emmett Till's mother, had the man's blueprint to their liberation when it comes to racial progression in this country. Because racial progression has only happened through the blood and the death of the black body, and unfortunately we see that continuing today. Look, this is easy. I mean, activists who are out there, it's in their blood. I believe completely every person of color have activism in them. We're born into activism. It's up to you to turn that switch on or not. So I don't have that much to say about activists out there. They're going to do what they're going to do because only a select few could endure the pain and the struggle to bring awareness to social justice issues. And those who have chosen that in their life, they already know what the mission is. So I don't have to critique anything. I just hope that people are inspired, that more, freedom conductors are born after they see this film.
That's some powerful stuff. Again, these guys are so dialed in, focused, and they love this project. And it's just so wonderful to hear their passion. And it just blows the mind thinking this is just one of probably thousands of stories so similar to this. And it's, it's heartbreaking and it's important to shine a light on it. And it's not like people want to live in the past. It's just shining a light on it to help us for the future. And that's what's important about these kind of films. Because we have so many more films that could be told and stories out there that have been forgotten or whatever. But it'll make us better by watching and learning about them. Even, this is off topic, but even think about this. I don't think there's ever been a full-length motion picture about the ramifications after World War II, about the Japanese camps that were created here in the States. I don't think that's ever been made into a movie. Again, I could be wrong. I might be just talking out of my head here. But that's just one example through history of things that a lot of people are ashamed of, but we need to be educated on them, not dwell on just living in that spot of anger, but using that to grow to today and tomorrow. So hopefully we won't repeat any of these things that we are seeing now. Again, you can't get rid of hate completely, and it's sad, but very true. But maybe this will help people and enlighten others and think, well, hey, we all bleed red. Why do I have to hate somebody just because of this, that, or the other? I don't care what it is. But maybe films like this will occasionally get through to somebody, help shine a light and make it a better world. Now, I hope you enjoyed our in-depth look at Till. Now, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, any way to improve the show, let me know. cinemajudge@hotmail.com, because I can't grow if I don't know. Or feel free to contact me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you want to do. I would love to hear from you. But if you want to watch the TV version of this, go to Bloomington, Minnesota's webpage, or go to this abbreviated version, bit as in bit.ly/cinemajudge, bit.ly/cinemajudge, and this and a whole other bunch of shows will be there on demand to watch anytime you want. You know what time it is now, guys. If you're a regular listener, this is shout-out time. For all you all around the world, I hope my voice finds you well. To all of you listening at work, home, driving in your car, using it as a nightlight, just pushing play and let it play through the night. Whatever you do, however you listen to this, I'm so grateful. So wherever, whenever, or whatever you're doing, this is for you. To all last week listeners, the United States, Canada, Brazil, Germany, Egypt, the Philippines, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Chicago, Illinois, St. Paul, Minnesota, Cottage Grove, Minnesota. Is it Vergas, Minnesota? Montreal, Quebec, Toronto, Ontario, Washington, District of Columbia, Baltimore, Maryland, Pasadena, California, Littleton, Colorado, Simi Valley, California, Arlington Heights, Illinois, Cornwall, Ontario, Farmington, Minnesota, Holyoke, Mass, Frankfurt AM, Maine, Hesse, Cairo, and Bocalad City, Providence, Occidental. Yeah, I know I got that one horribly wrong. But man, all of you out there listening, sharing with your friends, I am so grateful. Or if you listen to it multiple times, whatever you're doing, I really appreciate it. It's awesome. But now it's bourbon shout-out time. And this week it goes out to two people. One was that woman on the help desk from the Philippines. You were so patient with me. I just couldn't get my... Technology is not my friend. But you sat with me, talked to me for way much longer than most people probably should. But nothing but patience. So for you, thanks for just being so awesome. And then for the guy who came out to give me a new cable box, again, top-notch, informative, and patient. To both of you, cheers. Now, this week's episode was a little bit funky because it's such a heavy topic. Because as you well know, in case you're a first-time listener, when I'm making a TV version of this, I'm cranking tunes in the background. It's my happy place. I'm editing, listening to music and movies and music. That's my happy place. So when I'm doing this show, I could enjoy them both. Obviously, I can't do it on a podcast because, well, we can't have that. But what I did with this one was this. I tried to weigh the balance of heavy topic, should I do heavy music, serious music, whatever. You know, it's sometimes that hard little balance. So I settled for the in-between of melancholy but happy with hope. I settled on Coldplay. And man, they are just awesome. If you don't listen to Coldplay much, go back to revisit them. Because every stuff, even their older stuff is spectacular. Newer stuff, they've explored new things. But I'm just a sucker for some of those classic Coldplay albums. They're so, they can be totally melancholy and all that stuff, but then incredibly hopeful and just full of joy. So that's what I decided to listen to when I was doing this particular show, because this one was so heavy. I knew I didn't want the music to be, match up with that too much. Anyway, but that's what I was throwing down. Some Coldplay. Well, that is it. My glass awaits. I'm thirsty. So cheers to you and to the movies. So until next time, be well, be good, and I'm gone. I'm Jeff. Thanks for listening to The Cinema Judge.